亲大德圣听，为此法会，即一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，殊证无生。With the Sangha, we give virtue out of compassion for the sake of this assembly and all living beings. Please turn the wonderful Dhamma will to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto suchedoye olahudi sanmiao sanputoshe.
Namo sarendo sujedoye olahadi samya sambuddhoje.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿皆如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Venerable Master, Dharma friends, good evening. Welcome to our Sutra lecture in Queensland, Australia. It's Sunday, April 7th here down under, Saturday, April 6th, in California. We've come to investigate the Flower Garland Sutra, and this is the 10 stages chapter. We're on the 9th stage. We're going to be looking into how a bodhisattva practices his or her eloquence. And we're also going to look at some pretty astonishing, pretty amazing photographs. I listened in to Professor Verhoeven's Dharma talk last night, his lecture on the Sixth Patriarch Sutra. And when this lecture, our Avatamsaka lecture, was previewed, Professor Verhoeven said, "Oh, you're going to see snakes and spiders and sharks." And so I don't want to be guilty of false advertising. We have pictures of snakes and spiders and sharks today. So fair warning, if you have a queasy stomach, you might want to enter samadhi, close your eyes and enjoy the Dharma, because we got some pretty interesting Australian wildlife to show to you later on in our lecture. Those of you here in the Gold Coast, because we don't have our projector hooked up to the computer, won't get to see them. But I did want to, at the beginning, at the outset, express my appreciation for all of the hands that go into making this lecture possible. There's a large number of volunteer friends who put in hours and strength in order to make this lecture happen. We're webcasting out via YouTube. I'm coming to you from down under via conferencing software. And then here in the Gold Coast, at Gold Coast Dharma Realm, we have some volunteers who are busily translating the lecture into Mandarin, so it goes out over the Great Firewall into China via 2 conferencing softwares. So it's a lot of effort to keep the Dharma wheel turning. And also just the fact that people in Berkeley are looking at a screen. That's pretty amazing all by itself. That would be that there's enough heartfelt interest in the Dharma to make all of the details and logistics not the most important thing. Because I spend half of my year at another monastery, so people are willing to let me keep the lecture turning using technology to carry my image all the way to Berkeley, California, and then around the world on YouTube. So that's pretty astonishing. I kind of have the sense that Master Xuanhua would be all over global technology that allows the sutra to be heard, because that was his way. He was called an early adopter of whatever method or whatever tool worked in order to get people to listen. Mind you, those tools didn't replace, they only enhanced. Master Hua would have us lecturing on buses in transit, stuck on a freeway heading down to LA. If it was time to speak Dharma, somebody would be standing up, 诸佛菩萨慈悲, 师父上人慈悲, and Shifu would say, never mind all that stuff, just get to the point. What are you going to explain to us today? Never mind all that formality. So we lectured on airplanes, we lectured on the sidewalk, under trees. Master Hua really, really valued having people's attention focused on principle. And for him, I think that was where it was at. That was what it was about. All your education comes to the point of, can you communicate that principle to people so they get it? All the study of language, all the reading that you do, all of the meditation that you do is there to calm the mind and to calm the senses, so that when you say it, people go, oh, I never thought of it that way before. That makes sense, right? So speaking Dharma was a big deal for Master Xuanhua, our founder. Okay, that being the case, let us look right now at I got the Vajra Sutra. I don't need the Vajra Sutra. Today, we lectured on that yesterday. What I need is the ninth ground. Here we are. The Buddha's Flower Garland Sutra. And I'm going to give a melody to it with my 1931 Gibson mandola, an elder gentleman who's been making music all these decades. Here we go, ready? Namo Da Fang Guang Po Hua Yin Jing Hua Yin Hai Bo Pu Sa. Namo Da Fang Guang Hua Yin Jing Hua Yin Hai Bo Pu Sa. Namo Da Hua Yin Jing Hua Yin Hai Bo Pu Sa. Namo Da Fang Guang Po Hua Yin Jing Hua Yin Hai Bo Pu Sa. Hua Yin Jing Hua Yin Hai Bo Pu Sa. Two more. Namo Da Hua Yin Jing Hua Yin Hai Bo Pu Sa. One more time. Namo Da Fang Guang Po Hua Yin Jing Hua Yin Hai Bo a happy sound. We're moving on now to page, like everybody, if you've got a copy in your hand, if you're looking up at the screen, we want to turn to the Bodhisattva's unobstructed wisdom of Dharma, which is on page 68 and 69. 68, 69. Okay. Here's the Chinese. We're going to start with this bodhisattva uses the unobstructed wisdom of dharmas to know the inherent attributes of all dharmas. 此菩萨依法无碍智，知诸法自相. Okay, 自相. We're going to start right there. All right. Let's read together. 此菩萨依法无碍智，知诸法自相，亦无碍智，知诸法别相。此无碍智，无错扭说，乐说无碍智，无断尽说。Coming right over, English, here we go, ready together. This bodhisattva uses the unobstructed wisdom of dharmas to know the inherent attributes of all dharmas. Using the unobstructed wisdom regarding meanings, he knows the distinct attributes of all dharmas. Using the unobstructed wisdom of phrasing, he speaks without error. Using the unobstructed wisdom of delight in speaking, he can speak endlessly and without cease. All right, what's going on here? We are talking about bodhisattvas, and our Avatamsaka Sutra is about bodhisattvas. That's the main part of this text. That's the important part of this text. And the sutra is really satisfying because it takes us right into the mind of the bodhisattva. We can understand how bodhisattvas think, their motives, their things that they're cautioned about, the things they want to avoid, the things they insist must happen in order to teach living beings. So it's as if there were, you know, when you go to IKEA and you come back with a box and there's the paper that you unfold and it says, put dowel C in slot D. It's just like that. This is an IKEA fold-out instruction manual for the mind of a bodhisattva. And who's a bodhisattva? And do I care? Well, bodhisattvas are superheroes not from Marvel Comics universe, but from the human heart. They're almost too good to be true. Almost too good to be true, but you realize that these texts that talk about bodhisattvas have been in our consciousness for thousands of years. They haven't gone away. They're not, quote, popular, but imagine a world without somebody this good. If the standards for behavior just vanished, it didn't matter what we did. For the bodhisattva, the ethical dimension, the right and the wrong of it, and the principle behind it, that comes first. The inside is more important than the show outside. In fact, if the inside is real, the show doesn't matter, right? So that's how the sutras, that's the importance of the sutra and why they stick around, why they're still available to us. And it only took Master Hua to bring this whole reality to the West. One monk said, sutras are important. We have to know what the Buddha said. Do you know what the Buddha said? Oh, you don't speak Chinese? We'll study some Chinese. Then let's translate it. Oh, now you know what he said. Do you know what he meant? Let's talk about it, right? That's what he did for 90 minutes every single night he was alive in America, which was 30 plus years. So we have this heritage of Master Hua just saying, this matters, this is important, this is a priority, get your priorities straight. Let's find out what the Buddha wanted to tell us. Okay, let's do that. And then he did. He himself just made that his priority. So we who follow that example dig in to the Buddha's sutras, the Mahayana texts. And of course, I kind of assumed that everybody did too. This is what Buddhists did. And then after getting out and around in the Buddhist world to discover, in fact, it's rare. It's hard to find people who open the sutras and ask questions of the Buddha. Most often in Asia, where these texts have been for hundreds and hundreds of years, you go to commentaries. You don't go to the sutra. You ask, what did somebody else who lived in the Tang Dynasty have to say about it? I'm really not qualified. So Master Hua respectfully set the commentaries to one side and said, no, the Buddha's voice. The Buddha can speak English. Let's ask him questions. Why does this matter? Okay, that's the Avatamsaka Sutra, and it's about the bodhisattva. And okay, now if we were a movie, just for a movie, we would be zooming in, zooming in, zooming in, zooming in, zooming in, zooming in, going closer, closer and closer focus from an extreme wide angle right down to a close-up lens. And what we're talking about here is, what have we heard? We've heard that the bodhisattva is in school. He's in an academy learning how to teach. Now, this comes way towards the end of his career. We're in the 9th stage now. There's only 10. So he's almost done. What has he been doing up to this point? He's been, for example, learning how to meditate in the 5th stage, becoming a real master of samadhi, and investigating sound as a result. When he gets to the 6th stage, he encounters emptiness. Things come apart, starting with his body, including his mind. Reality is just not held together the way it was before, because he organically, authentically, personally is experiencing things breaking up as he sits. They say the true fire of samadhi, sanmei zhenhuo, has been turning his body, which used to be such a solid lump of stuff, now is just buzzing energy. It's just relationships being held together by karma, right? Earth, air, fire, and water buzzing around. And he sees that indeed, everything is made from the mind and the karma that the mind stimulates, excuse me. So what happens next? As soon as it's empty, you know what? It's not empty anymore. What's there? 12 links. In the 6th stage, he learns about conditioned arising. He learns about pratitya samutpada, the yuanqi, right? Because this arises, it links and pulls that. And because that arises, it links and pulls that. Sure enough, that's at the heart of emptiness. And that's profound. That awareness is profound because why? He realizes that he's awake now, or she. You can switch your pronoun. He's awake. He doesn't see the things of the world as inevitable or confusing anymore. They all come down to this process of conditions coming together because of vector forces that put them together. And when those forces end, the conditions come apart. That's all there is on the bigger canvas of emptiness. The dynamic space, the field, let's switch our metaphors. Let's call it a garden. The garden, the ground, the field of emptiness, if that works as a metaphor for you, grows everything or nothing, depending upon what gets planted. Who's planting what? That determines what comes together. When you harvest it, it's gone. It's over. Back to emptiness, right? He sees that, and what happens? He's free. He's liberated. He's not pushed around anymore by desires, by the illusory self. And as a result, he gardens very skillfully. He's a really good gardener. He only plants the seeds that he knows are going to help others. It's an open-handed harvest. This is key, right? The bodhisattva at the sight of emptiness doesn't stop. He gets to work. And he's working now for others. That's after the sixth stage. That's the prajna paramita. Emptiness is, you could say, a door that the bodhisattva jumps through, knowing that he, quote, doesn't exist, parentheses, in the same old way, is a very liberating vision, because the wind of karma is not blowing him as before. Instinct isn't working. Desire, right? It just doesn't push him like before he met the Dharma, before he started to cultivate. But once he's encountered this state of things not stuck together the way they used to, now he sees it's all conditioned born, he becomes a dynamic gardener. And what is the key that makes the difference? They say the bodhi resolve, this wish to wake up. The anuttara samyak sambodhi, resolve, right? That's this wish, I could become a Buddha, but you know there's something in the way, which is every living being who's still asleep, because there is no solitary awakening once he's tasted this kind of emptiness, once he's heard the Buddha and seen his nature's capacity to connect to everyone. So I got to wake people up. Seventh stage, eighth stage, he sees that emptiness of self now extends to all things. That eighth stage is key because he sees how all dharmas neither come into being nor do they pass away. They're empty, not empty. And that's a profound, scary moment, but he's able to get through it with the Buddha's help. Now he's at the ninth stage. And what's he doing? He's teaching. He's teaching. Now, in the process of doing this, he's gone through life. The Bodhisattva's done all kinds of stuff, right? Still gets up, goes to the market, still cooks, still sleeps. But his motive is different now. He's working for others, which is working for himself. So that's kind of I don't know, that my little soliloquy here, I wonder if that would make sense in any other sphere. On one hand, from the social capital point of view, the Bodhisattva is a total loser. He's just not into grabbing for all the gusto he can get. But from the point of view of selflessness and this unselfish vision of humanity's potential, this guy is got the answer. He's not a loser. He's a true superhero. This is a savior, right? And if you see it that way, the Mahayana Bodhisattva is a saint that literature rarely captures, right? Where do you find somebody this good? So anyway, that's why we keep the Avatamsaka wheel turning, why we want to keep this text in front of people, because it gives us a view of a perfected humanity and a kind of an altruism that humbles cynics. It's so easy to be cynical. Yeah, he's probably just like the rest of them, right? He's truly not. The Bodhisattva is not just like the rest of them. There's goodness here that is bone deep goodness based on what? Doing. It's not philosophy. It's not religion. It's not religious. This is human heart at its very best. I wish the Avatamsaka could be seen that way. I wish it could be, humanity's goodness on parade, because truly it is that. And it's not blind to the stupidity of humanity or the ignorance of humanity or the cruelty of humanity. It's not, despite that. It's including that. Without that stupidity, you don't see the bodhisattva's light. But the light is truly, truly bright. And Master Hua, sometimes Shifu would say, let's all cultivate together and then go save the world, he would say. And it's cynics would say, yeah, right, corny, that's cute, save the world. Yeah, well, start with San Francisco. How are you going to save San Francisco? Start with the projects across the street. There was a murder last night. You're going to save? And Shifu would just say, absolutely. Though that's stupidity and it's at its worst. Let's keep the wisdom bright, So he meant it when he would say, we're going to go save the world. He was simply reflecting the energy of the Bodhisattva in the Flower Garland Sutra. All right, okay, so that's my pep talk. What is going on today in our text is the camera has zoomed right in to how the Bodhisattva is going to save the world. How's he going to do it? He's going to do it by talking and by acting. But in this case, he's got to communicate ideas to living beings. So what are those ideas? They're Dharma, okay, principles with good stories. He's a storyteller. But look at the tools that he uses. They're called Wu Ai Zhi, wisdom that never stops. Wu Ai, no obstacles. It doesn't bang into anything that makes it stop. He's got this incredible ability to connect. And because the sutra is this textbook, it's a textbook, it's an instruction manual, it gives us four things. This is not just a good idea, right? It's specific, it's factual, it's step-by-step, methodological. What's the method? This bodhisattva uses Fa Wu Ai Zhi, unobstructed wisdom of dharmas, and you could explain it two ways. You could explain it small d dharma, meaning clear understanding of the way the world is made up. He uses that small d, unobstructed wisdom of dharmas, to know the inherent attributes of all dharmas. Okay, what is that? How many of you took a high school chemistry class? High school chemistry class, we met the periodic table of elements. We met oxygen, right? We met hydrogen, H2O, hydrogen 2 and oxygen. You get water. So chemistry is a combining of elements, the basic building blocks, and of nature, watching what they do in interaction. So that's what the Bodhisattva is clear on, using only the apparatus, the scientific apparatus of his own body and mind. The inherent attributes of all dharmas. Water is wet. Lead is heavy. Okay? Gravity pulls down. He's got that stuff. He knows it all, but everything, completely. Nothing confuses him, right? Okay, that's unobstructed wisdom of dharmas. If you explain that with a capital D, dharma, unobstructed wisdom of dharma, that would mean he's listened to the Buddha and turned it around and found what the Buddha was explaining in his own heart. Listening to the Buddha speak Dharma, the Buddha will say, I never said a word, I was only waking you up to what is already there inside you. Got it. So, unobstructed wisdom of dharmas. The Bodhisattva has turned it around to connect. It's inside, it's not outside. All right. At the same time, water is still wet, lead is still heavy, gravity still sucks, right? Pulls it down. So he knows that. That's outside, but he verifies it through his own principle. Number one. Whew. How are we doing? Number two. Unobstructed wisdom regarding meanings. He knows the distinct attributes of all dharmas. Okay, meanings in particular, words. Here's small d dharmas, right? Meaning, he can make it clear. Don't get it? He'll say it in a way you get it. What does that mean? Oh, I don't. What do you mean? Right? What do you mean by that? He can explain. You got it. You understand it when he says it. Nothing is left to chance. Now, mind you, here we go. Are you a storyteller? If you're a storyteller, storytellers depend upon their words. The words matter, the words have weight, and if it's a skillful storyteller, he or she is able to bring a word forward so you see it in your mind. He's just using his language to make pictures happen in your head, right? Or in your heart, where you see things. Sometimes it's a word that somebody, maybe a young person, hasn't learned yet. The storyteller doesn't always stop to explain. Sometimes letting the hard words be story listeners who are caught up in the story, who want to find out what's going on and what happens, will put that word to one side and get it in context. They'll make sense of it through the story flow. That's a skill in storytelling. Use bigger words when necessary, when it helps, a different name or a foreign word, and let the listener infer. I think I know what that means. I'll hold that thought while the story goes, right? If you stop and explain or use only simple words, it's okay, it's not as rich. And then we get the meaning through the flow of the story. We infer. So that's a good storytelling technique. Use bigger words. And what happens, we grow our vocabulary that way. There's now that I've given you that principle, I'm going to violate it myself. I'm reading a story about Scotland, about the Highland Scots. My mother's clan is the Kerr clan, K-E-R-R. In Scotland, they call it the Kerr clan. Yeah. And so the Kerr clan, in this story about Highland Scots, they live in Scotland. I'm reading it with on my electronic reader, and all I have to do is tap the word, and boop, up comes the meaning. There's a dictionary built right in the book. So I don't have to wait and get the word out of the flow. I can just tap it. Thank goodness my electronic reader gives me the meaning right underneath it. Oh, so all these different Scottish words. For example, P-A-R-R-I-T-C-H. Sam, what is P-A-R-R-I-T-C-H? Porridge. It's a food. Porridge. Tap on the word, pop, up it comes. And it says oatmeal, eaten at breakfast in Scotland. Porridge, right? It's porridge in Scotland. And what's a bairn? B-A-I-R-N. Anybody know? Any guesses? What's a bairn? Parents like to have a lot of bairns. A baby. It's a wee bairn, don't you know? It's a wee bairn. So, okay, if you tell your story, you say, oh, look at these sweet wee bairns come rolling out from the from the barn there. They've been playing with the horses. Such a sweet little fella. You go, must be talking about a boy. So a bairn is a child in Scottish dialect. Okay, so unobstructed wisdom regarding meanings. This bodhisattva is able to use words and language in a way that the pictures pop up in your mind the same way you would from your electronic reader. And furthermore, you don't have to change the batteries or recharge in the mind the way you do with your electronic reader. Reads 0 battery, you're got zip, nothing. So bodhisattva knows unobstructed wisdom regarding meanings. What about the unobstructed wisdom of phrasing? That means he speaks without error. And phrasing has to do with understanding. Is the speech tripping on the tongue? Is it flowing and easy to understand? If someone doesn't understand, can you substitute another phrase? How many alternative words do you have for the same principle or the same story so that the listener can understand it? There's a wonderful Chinese idiom that says, 此达矣. If you want to get it, this is the 此无爱辩, right? 此无爱智. What's the right phrase to use? Does it connect? 达矣. If it reaches the point of understanding, you're done. English as a language is constantly evolving. There are new words and new phrases in English coming in and out of currency all the time. Slang. English happens to be a language rich in slang because why? Number one, science and technology. Inventing new things for which we need new names. Okay, also what? English has a very broad constituency, an input base. We have words from German. We have words from Sanskrit. We have words from Old English, Greek, Latin, Chinese, Japanese, right? English is rich in input sources, and all those different languages come flowing up. Further, Americans invented Hollywood. We didn't invent movies per se, but we invented the storytelling of the movie theater, which then led us to Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu. And now, what do they say? They say 70% of bandwidth is used up these days by people streaming movies. Why? We love stories. America invented that phenomenon of the collective dream of the cinematic story, where we go and stare at that screen with surround sound and panavision and spectroscope and forget ourselves for the time that we're watching that story. You know what that does? It gives us rich language resources because we're listening to people talk to each other all the time that way, that we never did before electricity. So as a result, English is rich. And some languages, like Chinese, for example, Chinese has been in the form that it's in now, more or less, with small changes, for thousands and thousands of years. One of the realities of this is what? Chinese has a relatively small set of available sounds. Phonemes, they're called, right? There's just not a lot of choices. In Chinese, you got po, po, mo, fo, de, te, ne, le, zhi, chi, shi, ji, qi, xi, ge, ke, he, That's it. That's all the possible sounds you can make in Chinese for initial sounds. Then you have u, a, wo, wai, wei, wan, wen, wang, wong, yong, yu, yue, yuan, yin. There's not very many. There's something like 17 initials and 32 finals. And that's it. As a result, Chinese, when they meet foreign words, have a hard time. So, for example, baseball. Right? Baseball got to China and it was bangqiu, it was bat ball. Okay? Hamburger got to China and it was hambao. The Chinese have been massaging their syllables for so many thousands of years and so many billions of tongues that the sounds get rubbed down to an essential. The Chinese are geniuses at essentializing, just getting to the essence. Japanese, for example, by contrast, has many, 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 many more sounds. So in Japanese, what do you say? Beisabaru. Beisabaru, right? Baseball. You can pretty much approximate it because you have more sounds available. Hamburger is a hamburger, 不是汉堡, hamburger. So you go to watch Beisabaru game and eat hamburger, right? So you 去看棒球吃汉堡, nothing at all like go to the baseball game and eat a hamburger. So, okay, you understand. What are we talking about? The wisdom of phrasing. Unobstructed wisdom of phrasing. In English, my goodness, there's so many sounds coming into being, so many words that are hip and hot and the cool sound, and then, or phrase, and then it's gone. You know, slang. When I was listening to slang, it was hip. That was really a hip phrase. That was cool. That was neat. That was nifty. All right? It wasn't sick. And sick, I won't even try. Modern slang doesn't stand still. Anything that I could say is already like years old. So how interesting that phrases in English were constantly accepting and rejecting phrases in English. So the bodhisattva speaks without error. What's the measure of error? Did you get it? Did you get it? Cool, dude. So using the unobstructed wisdom in delight of speech, the bodhisattva can speak endlessly and without cease. Okay, this fourth one is so much fun because look at that. The bodhisattva just loves this ability. I'm proud. I had a moment 2 weeks ago when I recognized a word in Kookaburra speech. What a moment, right? My friend Ali, my informant, I have a Kookaburra informant named Ali, and I know him for 5 years, and I haven't seen him much recently, but I've seen his son and his grandson who are here. And because I saw him repeatedly over the years, I heard him speak a lot because he would sit right beside me and make Kookaburra language. And I would watch Ali and his spouse and his kids communicate and other Kookaburras communicate. And I would listen, and I actually recorded a lot of their interactions and their speeches. And one of my favorite was I was sitting on my porch here in Queensland, and Ali came up and landed on a branch across from me and made a sound. And his sound was, I can't imitate it. Kookaburra language is quite wonderful. But he made it's about a 5-syllable sound that he made. And he was looking at me, and what he communicated to me was, hi, I'm here. It was a, hello, how are you? I'm here. Can you feed me? That's the unspoken part. I'm hungry. What have you got for me today? But it was like that. And it was like he was looking at me, and he landed on the branch, and hi, I'm here. Okay, so I recorded that, and I listened to it over the years, and you know, it was fun to hear Kookaburra's speech. And then 2 weeks ago, I was inside and I heard a sound from the tree to my left. And it was, I know that sound. That's Ali saying, I'm here. Do you suppose? So I went out, slid the door open, and there was Ali's son looking at me. He had just said to me, hi, I'm here, in Kookaburra language. And because I had studied it from his dad, I got it. I understood what he said. And it was, hi, I'm here. I was inside, and I came out and fed him. So now, you think, boy, what has this monk been drinking, smoking? No, I believe I recognized a speech act on the part of the bird, because why? I listen. My ear is tuned to sound a lot, and I think I know what I heard. So, what about a human who can say so much more? You know, you think of all the incredible ideas we can communicate, the emotions, the deep feelings, the inspirations, the lies we can tell through speaking. Oh, right? Deception in language. All the speeches we can give. All of the products we can sell because we can speak. Oh my goodness. The stories that we pass on, the wisdom that we communicate through speech, right? How marvelous is that? And truly, among the animals on the Buddha's green earth, humans have a remarkable capacity for speech. Now they say, there's teaching in the sutras that says, devas communicate through light in one level of the heavens. It's the Suyama heaven. In the Suyama heaven, they say that they don't use speech, they use lights. Now, what wonder would that be? Can you imagine hearing somebody communicate to you just by subtle shadings of light? How amazing that would be, right? And anything we can say about human speech, you have to figure the devas got it better, right? With their incredible blessings. So now, this being said, I have to admit, being an American from the Great Lakes in the Midwest, I spend a fair amount of time here in Australia saying, excuse me, what? What'd you say? Today in class, in meditation class, I had to say what a lot, because people were speaking normally in Aussie dialect, and I'm the outsider, and everybody else understood perfectly, but I was like, what? So the possibilities of misunderstanding in speech are huge. All you have to do is switch into another language. Minna-san wa, 日本語ができますか? 上手ですね。いえ、上手じゃないよ。わかりません、あなた。So, right, you slip it, you just change it a bit, and suddenly it's like, what? So here's our bodhisattva using unobstructed wisdom to communicate dharma, meanings, phrases, and this thing called 乐说, delight in speaking. And speak endlessly and without cease. Question would be, does it improve on silence? Question. 复次依法无碍智，知诸法自性；亦无碍智，知诸法生灭。此无碍智，安立一切法不断说。乐说无碍智，随所安立，不可坏无变说。Furthermore, using the unobstructed wisdom of dharmas, he knows the inherent nature of all dharmas. Using the unobstructed wisdom of meanings, he knows the creation and destruction of all dharmas. Using the unobstructed wisdom of phrasing, he sets forth dharmas and teaches them without stop. Using the unobstructed wisdom of delight in speaking, whatever he sets forth, he speaks limitlessly in a way that cannot be refuted. Oh boy. So there's going to be 10 of these, right? This is the heartbeat. This is the core of the 9th stage, is eloquence. He's a Dharma teacher. He's a Da Fa Shi, right? A major teacher of Dharma. And we hear 10 different varieties of these 4. That's coming up. We've had 1. First one was the inherent attributes, the xiang, the externals of all dharmas. Now, the nature of all dharmas. What is inside those externals? You could say the externals don't change. The externals change. The nature is unchanging. He knows them. He's got it. And he's able to explain it so that you get it too. Unobstructed wisdom of meanings. He knows how dharmas arise and fall. Mind you, within that, right? Within that, there's mystery. Okay, simple example. Ready? Here we go. I'm going to create a dharma. Where does that end? I don't know. Those are vibrations. When those vibrations go out, do they stop in Brisbane? Do they stop in Cairns? What about Darwin? That's a mystery, ultimately. Right? You could measure them, I suppose. But what have I done when I do that in terms of physics? I've set something in motion, right? So when does it stop? Good question. There's the sciences of physics has taken some very fascinating journeys after the discovery of quantum mechanics, going into string theory, saying that there's underneath our surface of reality, there are connections that are global. Moves here, it moves there. Oh, a kookaburra just flew up outside the door here. So, did he say anything? Can't hear. So, this, how things are created and destroyed, he can explain it, he understands it. It's still a mystery. Spring comes back every year. And how many subtle, delicate connections have to be in place before a flower blooms? I was reading the other day about the asteroid that they say landed in the Gulf of Mexico. I'm going to lose it. The Mesozoic ended and the something other age began because that asteroid hit the Earth and kicked up dust and smoke and ash that blotted out the sun. Everything froze. They say dinosaurs ended then because this huge object hit the Earth. The result was things burned. Every living thing burned and then it froze because the sun couldn't penetrate the dust that surrounded the Earth. This is in Australian Geographic. I was reading about it. And it created fertility because when that dust settled, it reset basically topsoil from which everything started to grow. But in that blink of an eye, there was an end. And yet that beginning, what began from that was all of these conditions that result in a bird like a kookaburra, coming to talk to a human being. or a beautiful orchid coming out of its roots in a tree and delighting all who see it with purple color. What kind of conditions, how magical that is. And yet it's likewise arising out of emptiness. So using the unobstructed wisdom of delight in speaking, this bodhisattva can speak endlessly and without cease. I'm going to tell you about someone who could do this, and his name was Master Xuanzang. Master Xuanzang was born actually at the turning of the Tang Dynasty. He was born in the Chen in the Liu Dai. And when he was, 8 years old, Li Tongshan, who was the founder of the Tang Dynasty? Li Shimin ma. Yeah, Li Shimin became Tang Xuanzong, Tang Taizong. So right at that time, Master Xuanzang's brother was already a monk. He was a Buddhist monk. And the young man was inspired, and by his older brother. He had revered his older brother. And if you wanted to become a monk back then, you had to get permission from the government to do it. So the emperor sent out or gave instructions for recruiting to be done for the Sangha. And he sent out a minister to tack up notices on the door. On this day, we're going to have tryouts. We're going to have auditions for the Buddhist Sangha. And these are the criteria. You have to be, 18 years old, and you can't ordain as a monk till you're 20, but you can train for 2 years. Minimum 18 years old. You have to be have permission of your parents. You have to have a robe and bowl, etc. And so the young boy, whose name was Chun, I believe, saw the poster, had his brother explain it to him, and said, "I want to be a monk." Everyone said, "You're too young." And so he said, "I want to be a monk." "You're too young." So he showed up at the audition with the imperial magistrate doing the examining. And magistrate said, "How old are you?" He said, "I'm 12. He said, "You're too young." And now I'm gonna quote it wrong. I don't have the book with me, but with his delight in speech, his unobstructed eloquence, Master Xuanzang said, "My Buddha nature is without age. My body may be 12, but my will is to glorify the Buddha's teachings and to keep the proper Dharma alive. How can you refuse me?" he said. And the magistrate, looked at the older brother, the monk, and looked at his secretary and said, "We can't, come on, we'll take you." So he bent the rules, and Master Xuanzang started training. He was a remarkable young man, made a vow, traveled to India to find the true Dharma. Problem was that Buddhism had been in India, been in China for about 4 centuries at that point, 4 or 5 centuries, and the teachings were partial and often incorrect. Because why? The sutras that had come had not been well translated, or part of them were lost, or they were mixed up with Taoist texts and what was already there in China. Master Xuanzang looked at that and said, "Not good enough. We need the real Dharma of the Buddha. I'm going to make it my job to go get it." And he had a dream that he did so, that he was successful. So lots of stories happen, lots of wonderful phenomena, including him setting off across the Taklamakan Desert. The only way you could tell that you were still heading towards India was by finding the skeletons, the bleached bones of the horses and camels and pilgrims who had gone before you and had failed and died. You'd keep your eye on them. There was enough of them that was going to direct you. That must be India. There's more white bones ahead. So how dangerous was that? He ran out of water, and he and his old skinny red horse that he took as his companion on his own, crossing the Mohoyan, the great river of sand, right? So trackless, no GPS, no map, right? No Apple Maps, no Google Maps. So he was stumbling around, and he saw something that he had been told was going to happen, but he'd never experienced it before, which was what? Demons. Genuine, scary hobgoblins, demons, came charging at him on their horses with their skulls gleaming in the moonlight, shouting. And what did Master Xuanzang do? He recited the Prajna Paramita Heart Sutra, Boro Boro Mido Shinjing, particularly the mantra, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhisvaha. And he recited that mantra, which says what? It says, there is no form, there is no feeling, there is no thoughts, there's no activities, there's no consciousness, there's no knowing and no attaining, right? There is only the bodhisattvas who, because they've made the Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi resolve, are no longer afraid. Because there's no fear, they're unobstructed. They're far away. They leave all kinds of inverted dream thinking far behind. Jiujing Nieppan, ultimately nirvana. He recited that, and the demons vanished. They couldn't touch him. And his horse started to drag him. And oh no, he said, I'm here, I'm out of water, the demons are surrounding me, and my horse is running away. And the horse kept dragging him, and he held on to the reins, and the horse dragged him over the hill to a pond of water. And he stayed there for 3 days, and repaired his water bags, and the horse drank his fill, and they had some food, and he survived. And he made it to India, went to Nalanda University, where he enrolled, studied Sanskrit, studied the other translation languages from the Silk Road, gathered together a large number, 300 scrolls of heretofore untranslated Buddhist sutras, put them on his backpack, and started back. But before he did, in India at the time, what was important was debate. Debate was the way that you showed your skill as a teacher, as a Dharma teacher, as a worthy leader of seekers of wisdom and enlightenment. So Master Xuanzang had made some friends among his professors and also among the rulers of the countries in India. So they asked him whether he would be willing to take part in the national debate that would pit all the Waidao, all the non-Buddhist religions, and the Theravada, along with the Mahayana. He said, sure, why not? He said, furthermore, he said, here is my thesis that I wrote, and it was consciousness only. He said, this is the product of my studies here at Nalanda University. I'm going to put it up here on the gate, and if anybody can come and out-debate me and prove a logical or a principled fault or error in my writing, in my thinking, I will gladly give them my head, he said. So, wow. So do or die, right? This is right down to the bone. So the kings were watching, and he put his thesis up, and people tried to come, they tried to out-debate him, and they couldn't. 7 days passed, and nobody could refute even a sentence of his thesis. And Master Xuanzang was crowned the debate champion of all of India. A foreign monk from China was the Indian national debate champion. They gave him was it an elephant? They gave him an elephant as the trophy for being the debate champion. And instead of taking a victory lap on top of the elephant, being tall and high above everybody else, Master Xuanzang took his precept robe. He took his precept sash, folded it up, and set it on top of the elephant's seat, and let the precept sash be the winner of the debate champion, who was being applauded by the kings of India and all of the unhappy losers of the debate. Oh my goodness. So talk about unobstructed eloquence and delight in speaking. He had it. He had it. Every one of these 4 unobstructed eloquences, unobstructed wisdoms, right? So what a wonderful thought. To this day, eloquence is unmistakable. When somebody's got it, you just know it. The words they say go deeper. I remember being in high school in Toledo, Ohio, and regardless of where you are in the debate about Israel, Palestine, and mind you, that's a brotherly, fraternal struggle that maybe has no happy solution. It's blood has been spilled, and the feelings are hot over that. So we'll set that aside for the moment, the rights and the wrongs. But here I was in high school, and that was what, 1963, perhaps 1963, and there was a debate in the United Nations, and the United Nations ambassador to the UN, the Israeli ambassador to the UN, Abba Eban was his name, was speaking, talking about, I think the topic was about the Jewish rights to a homeland in Israel. I don't remember the details. But it was so important at the time that my high school principal piped it into the entire school. The entire school paused to listen to this Israeli diplomat speak at the UN. And I was in the office, and the TV was on, which was the source of sound. He put it on the PA. But I watched him speak. And I remember I was at the time, 14? I was mesmerized. I was struck silent and hypnotized almost to listen to this eloquent elder statesman make his case, right or wrong. That's another story, whether his case was a right case. But Abba Eban's speech to the UN, like, it's almost as if I can hear it ringing in my ears to this day. That man was eloquent. And if he talked for hours, I would have listened for hours. And I knew nothing about the issues or what is eloquence, but listening to him speak, you knew he had it. Now, I have an opportunity to talk about speaking Dharma to the monks in the DRBA Sangha. I taught some classes there. And I also, as part of the curriculum, show Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. giving his I Have a Dream speech on the steps of the nation's capital by the reflecting pond in Washington, D.C. And you just know that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was another man gifted with eloquence. The things he says go deep. But more than that, that fourth quality, the delight in speech, Dr. King had that delight in speech. And it didn't come, it's not born in it, it's trained. He was a preacher. He's a preacher in the Southern Baptist tradition. So it's a combination of the music of his voice, the phrasing that he uses, the power and cadence and rhythms of the words he uses to tell you that I have a dream. And when you hear it, it's your dream too. And it's a dream. If it's not your dream, it's a dream you want, right? And oh my goodness. So when humanity looks back on the important speeches, maybe Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address is one. That was a written speech, written on a train on the way from Washington to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And not many people heard him. There's actually one photograph of Abe Lincoln at Gettysburg, and he's surrounded in this ocean of people who are straining to hear this man's words before public address systems. But Dr. King, on the steps of the Capitol there, was heard by hundreds of thousands, and then played over and over again. There's eloquence. There's true joy in speech, unobstructed wisdom in phrasing, in dharma, in meaning, right? So when you hear that, you just think, this is a quality that I could train in myself, even if I'm talking to my kids at dinner, right? If they listen to me because they know the words I'm saying connect to my heart, maybe even if they don't listen to me right away, at least they'll think about it when they're back in their room, right? The last story with Master Hua, one day I was feeling really down in my practice. I'd been scolded a lot, and nothing seemed to be working. I was a young monk, and my period of silence was over, and I didn't know. I'd been silent for 6 years, and I kind of lost my direction. And Master Hua would come into the Buddha hall and stand while we circumambulated around reciting the Buddha's name. And he showed up and stood there, and he gestured to me, come out, come over. And I hadn't spoken to Master Hua in weeks before that. He said, he said, Guozhan, he says, I'm glad you're here listening. He said, he said, listening to the Dharma is the best. He said, if you cultivate, he said, in the future, you can have real wisdom and you can speak Dharma for all living beings. He said. And as he said it, his eyes lit up. Not that his eyes were ever dull, but there was a special light in his eyes. And you could see that for him, that was it. That's what it's about, was getting real wisdom through cultivation and speaking Dharma for all living beings. And the power that came out of that vision of his, that he was just sharing, just how simple a thing to say, I could see it. I could see why, for him, that was the ultimate moment. And I'll never forget that, because here's our bodhisattva in the sutra doing the same, saying the same thing. He's almost done. He's almost out of the 10 stages. And what is he learning to do? He's learning to be eloquent so that he can take people out of confusion, out of the darkness, out of their pain, and show them the road ahead so they too can make the Bodhi resolve. And it doesn't come easy. You have to pay for that. You have to kind of look at emptiness right in the face and then realize that doing it for yourself is just not true. The self is such a fantasy, such a facade. But doing it for others is joyful. It's worth it to come back in a human body if you can speak Dharma for all living beings. What a wonderful image, Master Hua. So if you could turn off those lights there in the Buddha hall and crank up the screen, because here we got, what do we got here? We've got a young kookaburra. This is Ali's grandson. This is Ali the Third. Here in the Gold Coast, we can't see. You have to listen to use your imagination, right? This is a young teenage kookaburra. You can see how innocent he is. Everything is possible because Dad is off to the right feeding this. That's why. What a happy little guy. Here is a king parrot. Oh my goodness. Look at how perky and happy this little guy is. That's a male king parrot who flew in for lunch. Okay, let's see now. What else have we got? Oh, this was taken yesterday. Here is a bearded dragon. Sam was mowing the lawn, and this dragon stuck his head up as if to say, please don't mow me down. Pay attention. Here I am. This is my house too, right? Cutie. Okay. Here is what? Oh, no, I can show that one later. Okay, let's see here. Okay, now, fasten your seatbelts. Some of you have heard about wolf spiders, and I found one. Here's a wolf spider. I think I can hear the ew and the yicks from where I am. Right? What's unique about this wolf spider? Those are her babies on her back. She was walking across the driveway when I was going to lunch, and by golly, she walked in front of me on her way, being a mother taxi for all her kids. Remarkable. Now, that's a major ick factor for a lot of people, but here she is staring at me. What are you up to? Don't harm my babies, right? They ride on her back until they're mature, and then the wind carries them away. But she's staring at me with 2 of her 8 eyes. My goodness. So the way Professor Verhoeven last night said, oh, you're going to see spiders and snakes and sharks? Yeah. Didn't want to disappoint him or anybody who came to look in case they heard about him. Here she is. What a remarkable creature. They say this is the only spider that shows maternal agency. Right? Those long legs. My goodness. She was on her way across the driveway trying to find a new home. All right. What do we got here? Let's see here. Okay, this is a snake skin taken off my roof. 1 in 3 houses in Queensland has a python in the roof. And here's a snake skin. That used to be a python, right? That's a python. She's maybe changing to her autumn wardrobe or something. But it wound up in the tree on the edge of my roof there. My goodness. We know that that snake.
How long is that snake, Dharma Master?
How long?
How long was that snake skin?
That one is, the snake skin itself is about 2.5 feet. The snake, her name is Serafina. She's the queen in the neighborhood, and very, she's a very large, she's about I'd say a 3-foot long snake.
Somehow that looks really
But
long.
she left, yeah, pretty long. I think
longer
that's
than 2.5.
considered sort of large, but not the largest. They can be, 3 meters? Yeah, like 10 feet. Now, this is not in the neighborhood, but this was 2 weeks ago up in Cairns. Snakes are sharks and rays. Just amazing creatures. True dinosaurs. Just off the coast. Swimming by me. Here they are. Totally efficient. Unfortunately, they're soon to be endangered because people have a liking for shark's fins. They cut the fins off and throw the shark back, leaving it unable to swim, and then just eat the fin. So there's strong movement in Queensland to protect the sharks. Here's a moray eel, just as strange a creature as you can imagine, completely at home in the coral of the reefs around Australia. What else have we got here? Oh, this guy. This is my photo. Anybody who watched Peter Pan as a kid is listening for the alarm clock. Tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock. Captain Hook. This is a freshwater crocodile coming out of the water to greet you. There are lots of warnings for campers, people who go bushwalking, right? You go out backpacking. If you camp, if you pitch your tent too close to the water, you may wake up in the morning with this sound around your tent of a crocodile trying to get in. So you don't want to. Also, check this one out. As long as we're looking at aquatic creatures, that's a stonefish. And a stonefish is the most venomous single aquatic creature, period. If you step on a stonefish, and they look just like the coral, right? Don't step on that one. You step on a stonefish, and it's very hard to tell that's a fish. You're in big trouble. Here's the story. Reef stonefish, the most venomous fish in the world. The reef stonefish can be lethal to humans. It feeds on fishes and crustaceans by using their excellent camouflage to look like an encrusted rock or lump of coral, and waiting patiently before striking out and swallowing their prey whole at incredible speed. Oh my goodness. We don't have as many of those in California. Oh, I wanted to show you, to sum things up here. To the left is Ali Jr. This is Ali's son. He's the father. And to the right is Oliver. He's Ali 3. Here he is a month ago, still young, kind of innocent still. Not really, not much different than his dad, and being fed by his father. He's totally taken care of by his dad. Okay. The time came for this bird to be kicked out of the nest. He was now had to feed himself. he was able to care for himself. And look at what happened to the boy. Here's the father. There's Ali Jr., who, by the way, I also fed when he was a chick. And look what happened to the teenage kid. Here is Ali the Third. Look at him. His feathers are dirty. He's got his fancy wax haircut. And he's got attitude. Look at him. Totally rebellious. Right? He's going through that teenage phase. Oh my gosh. It just happens. Teenagers turn to aliens right in front. He's laughing at his father. Kind of embarrassed to be seen with his dad, right? Oh man. Being a teenager. Okay, so we've seen spiders, we've seen snake skins, we've seen sharks, we've seen bearded dragons, and here, one more. Here's the big Buddha. This is my cabin. This is where I live in Queensland Bush from the front of Gold Coast Dharma Realm, now living right beside me because we're rebuilding in the front, a new construction. So I get to live next door to this fabulous Buddha image. Here's a picture of Sam and Cliff, our translators, and the bulldozer that brought the Buddha over. Isn't that lovely? So what's going on? This is, I live in thank you for the slideshow. I live in a natural place that has not been completely polluted and developed. There's very much a sense that the things that exist here in my neighborhood that allow me to witness them have always been here. As long as Australia has had animals and plants and insects, these things have been alive and flourishing, and they're still here. And I, as a Midwesterner, transplanted to California, an urban monk, get to watch and witness the incredible life cycles and social dynamics of these creatures. And what a joy, what a wonder to be able to see Buddhist principles manifesting in the lives of these animals. So that's it from Gold Coast today for the Avatamsaka 9th stage chapter. Have you got some announcements for us from Berkeley to share with everybody?
So tomorrow we'll have one day Amitabha recitation. And so if people are interested, please just come at 7:30. Let's see what else. We have the Buddhist conference, Buddhist Global Conference. I believe that's June 29th and 30th. So people would like to participate. There's flyers in the back. That's a chance. Heng Sure will be speaking. I think Ajahn Brahm will be coming. Imi Oi will be performing on the Sunday of that conference. So it'll be a big kind of festival event. I think there's over 50 Buddhist groups participating. So it's probably the biggest gathering of Buddhists in this area probably ever. I don't think we probably had 50 different Buddhist groups gathering together. Before that, June 15th and 16th, we have the family camp hosted by Reverend Heng Sure and Dharma Master Ming Guang here at Berkeley Monastery. So if you're interested, please sign up on our website. You'll see a flyer in the hallway as well. And maybe lastly, I know the Buddha Root Farm registration just started. And do you know what dates were those? July 13th to 20th. So if people are interested, please go to oregon.berkeleymonastery.org. You can sign up for Buddha Root Farm. You want to sign up early because I'm sure the spaces will go pretty quickly. Is there anything else I'm missing? No. Maybe next Saturday we'll still have storytelling. Brian Conroy will be leading the storytelling circle the next Saturday, which is April 13th. Yeah.
All right. Sam, which weekend are we going to be in Sydney? 19th and 20th.
Easter weekend.
Say again?
Easter weekend.
Easter weekend. Easter weekend, I'm going to be in Sydney for a program at University of Sydney Technology. And Saturday and Sunday, anybody who is down in Sydney, it's just after Anzac Day. Please tell your friends to come look us up. Is it on the GCDR website, that poster? We can post it up, yeah. So if you go to gcdr.org.au, in a bit, we'll have the poster there. We'll announce it again next week, so let people know. That weekend, we'll invite Jin Fo Shi or Jin Chuan, Jin Wei Shi to give the sutra lecture, because I'll be down in Sydney at that time. All right, so can we dedicate merit and wish everybody to have a week full of wisdom and compassion, to use those unobstructed eloquences when you speak. Here we go. I put it up on the screen, and if you've got a copy in front of you in your songbook, you can use that just as well. Okay, let's make a wish and send out this goodness like a cell phone tower in all directions. May every living be our minds as one and radiant with light. Share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see, our hands and hearts can find in giving unity. May our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns in paradise. May all become compassionate and one. May all become compassionate and one. May it be so. Okay. See you all next week. Omi Tofo. Bye-bye, everybody.